Hello, can you hear me? Good morning. From where are you, Rohit? Morning, that sounds like Asia. Or Western US. Hello. Let's give us a few minutes until we get started. I don't do predictions, Rohit. Really not. I strongly refer. Let me post that video. You check my other videos. Basically, I have two important videos. One, well, actually, you can check on the summary I did a few weeks, maybe months back, where I wrote XRP to $5,000, and please, and this for any of you guys holds true for all my videos. I usually put descriptions in the description of the YouTube video. I usually put information, further links, usually a PDF which explains a bit more in detail what I'm basically talking about. And Rohit, that video I just posted is one of them. In that video I show 4 angles why I think a high price is needed. I stated 5,000, could be 3,500, but I'm 100% convinced $500 just won't cut the case, and $1,500 most likely neither. So it will somewhere between 2 and 8,000, or maybe even higher. Maybe not this year, but in the long term run anyway. And talking about this year, but this I will start talking about once it's 8 o'clock. Hello, XRP Hark from Netherlands. Hello, Manuel. Cannot hear you. Then I think the other ones can hear me. So I think it must be I think I have quite a good connection. And it tells me the stream health is green. Beyond, Rohit, beyond, way beyond. Is everyone good? Okay. Let's get started. Same as last week, I didn't prepare anything, so basically take the title on the live stream as a motto for today's live stream. Q&A. Ask me questions. The only thing I quickly wanted to cover before we dig into the questions, but I didn't really prepare anything, but I think it's important to mention. I mean, I'm hoping that everyone following me knows in the meantime that I see RippleNet just as ramp up to the Internet of Value with ILP. And this week was ILP summit with few people from Ripple, Ethan Beard and Evan Schwartz were talking, and they basically told they have quite some aggressive targets, that by the end of the year they want to have 1,000 nodes live. Now, as most of you may know, ILP has usually a sender and a receiver, and in the middle, once it concerns currency conversion, it needs at least one, most likely two ILP connectors. So what they're referring to with 1,000 nodes, I don't know. I don't think they mean 1,000 ILP connectors. That would be quite serious. But even when we're talking about 1,000 companies actually using ILP, that'll in the end mean that we will require quite some ILP connectors anyway between the countries where those companies operate, and thus I think my proposed 10% market share from the SWIFT market by the end of the year is not really outrageous. I mean, assuming that maybe from those 1,000 nodes, 500 are small to medium companies or startups like Coil and stuff, you can be sure that the bigger ones, maybe not everyone, but some of those ones, Amazon, Uber, Google, Facebook, Apple, whatever, some of those ones will definitely be on ILP by the end of the year. And for sure, banks which do not want to join RippleNet as such, there will be quite some of those banks also being on ILP infrastructure. I posted a tweet today. I have received the information from Mr. Fresh. He's usually in my live stream, maybe not today, I don't know. He tweeted me a few weeks back very interesting information on what he sees is important regarding RippleNet, and one thing basically is regulation, and the two together, ILP and RippleNet and regulation, basically means that we're not really looking for regulation. And in the tweet I posted was a document, I think it was a paper from a university done or so, and I'm pretty sure they did quite a thorough research on that, where the paper basically discusses what Ripple should do to be welcomed with regulators and how other payment systems do it, and that basically most of those other payment systems have higher risks, credit risks, because they do not settle in the moment of the transaction, such as basically RippleNet or ILP is doing, and thus the risk is lower, and thus the regulation requirements are less. Even more so because the existing, let's say, contractual relationships between the participants in the financial system does not need to be changed. Those contracts can stay as they are, because basically Ripple is just changing the underlying infrastructure. And when we talk about RippleNet being infrastructure, I added a video in an answer to that tweet where Patrick Griffith, I think, or Griffin or something, from Ripple is having an interview, and he basically states, I think at minute 350 or something, that RippleNet can be seen as infrastructure. So, and with this I basically covered what I wanted to let you know. Now let's check your questions. John Lauderdale, there are people, there is a guy asking if you should break into smaller wallets. That's really up to you. I am on eToro. I have a online multi-signature wallet and I feel totally safe with that. If you feel safe with your Nano or whatever other wallet you use, then so be it. But I mean, that really depends on you. I cannot give a recommendation on that. For me, I wouldn't do it because I trust myself that I can manage passwords and stuff. That not even my wife knows my passwords. Not even my 4-digit PIN I use for banking, as example. What was supposed to happen was Bitcoin would fork into all manner of creatures and the users would pick the best one. Did I miss a question on that? English to me. Regarding BTC. I don't quite get the context here from English to me. Peace now encouraged about digital asset blockchain settlements. Did you see that and what do you think? More support? Well, phase 569, you can be sure that all the big organizations like IMF, World Bank, BIS, and other maybe more national organizations which handle same things on a more national basis, they're quite sure that Ripple is solving the liquidity problem. So basically they're even not stating so publicly, but I'm 100% sure they all know RippleNet and XRP is one of the best things which could have happened. Regarding SDR, I told that previously. I don't think XRP will play a role in SDR because SDR only can support currencies which support official used currencies within a country. And I mean, if it's Zimbabwe, you can be sure it will not be a reserve currency, even though there have been tweets going on that maybe XRP may become the official currency in countries where the inflation is too high. But I mean, with XRP the same thing can happen. A country needs a stable currency, and I don't consider XRP not any time in the future being a stable currency, and as such it's also not part of SDR. However, when we talk about moving those funds from the SDR to a country where they basically receive the money from the SDR, then XRP will play its role. Of that I'm pretty sure. Moonshot, I don't think XRP is a stable coin. There has also been these rumors now with this USDX coin coming along recently. but a guy, I don't remember whom it was on Twitter, basically clarified that it's a project, it's not yet so that this USDX coin actually will be or will be packed or backed or whatever to XRP. It's just a theory so far. Why should Obama be shipped to a zoo? XRP Hard. He's asking about Europe, ECB, and actually it's called TIPS, not TRIPS, I guess, unless I missed something. That has been discussed last year quite some time. TIPS is actually using, I'm not saying central bank money, but at least the settlement goes via the central banks. There hasn't been any evidence that within the European area XRP or ILP will be used. However, with the upcoming trends, basically you have to see that or to understand that once you have a real-time gross settlement system in place, you can just plug RippleNet in. So in one or the other way, XRP will be used anyway over time. Okay. Hi, RMB. RMB is a guy which I will have the courtesy having with me next Wednesday. I will schedule a German live stream next Wednesday for all my German followers. So if you have German speaking friends, please let them know. I will schedule the event after this live stream. It'll be in German only, there will be no translation. And by the way, talking about German, I remember when I was talking about ILP and regulation, I had a thought about that German interview with Moino, Lars from Bremen. He mentioned maybe not in the video, maybe it was in our after recording talk. He basically has a slightly alternate theory regarding Shane Ellis, that price will soar high and fast. He thinks that high and fast will happen, but that it will not happen through actual transactions going through the system, but that his theory is that Ripple is engaging bots, trading bots, and once they basically flip the switch, that they will basically eat on all the exchanges all sell orders to actually reach a high price. The advantage of that would be they basically could control better through that arbitrage. Basically, they could do it basically immediately, and they wouldn't need to cover the slippage, which was an argument from Galgitron, because basically there wouldn't be any real life transaction involved, where slippage would occur, so that Ripple basically would need to cover the loss occurred through slippage. That would be an advantage, but the effect would be the same, only that the control on the price rise would actually be Ripple itself. I don't know if that's legally possible with regulations and stuff, because actually there are quite some, I don't know, restrictions or controls on those bots. They cannot do everything. So I don't know if that would be totally legal. On a side note, I got on one of my more recent videos from an Australian follower a hint that, I think it's a she, thinks she knows whom Shane Ellis is. I don't go into details. I checked that person, and indeed the name of that person could lead us very well to Shane Ellis, and he's the CEO of a bank. I don't know how big the bank is, but at least I think they sponsor certain tennis tournaments in Australia, and he's following, and I checked his followers, and he's following, I mean, it's a bit, if you're kind of a person, let's say, deep into those RippleNet things, and you are on Twitter, I mean, on Twitter you can basically check whom someone follows. So basically that's a risk that other people know that you're interested in whatever, pictures about dogs or so. I like those dog tweets. Those following me might have realized that, and I follow those dog tweets. But if I don't want anyone to know that I follow those dog tweets, I could follow someone who retweets usually those dog tweets, and thus I would see those dog tweets anyway. And this is the way that person, I think, is working. He follows an institution which is closely following Ripple and basically every important person in the Ripple or XRP ecosystem. Karl Wagner, Michael, when do you think? Well, Carl, I don't know when you joined. I was talking before a little bit about regulation. I think everything is settled. I really think the only thing we're waiting for is a good moment to shoot the price. If SBI is really required for that liquidity to take place, I don't know. Maybe they can do that in the first month without SBI VC in Japan. There was one guy, I think he's called the Real Block X, and recently he's basically tweeting stuff quite on my line, so to speak, and I think it was him who tweeted recently that they tried in the past already 2 times to shoot the price, and for some reason it was stopped, but the next date, I think he even proposed a date, was somewhere in middle of June, so let's see what happens. But coming back to Carl, I really don't think that we're waiting for regulation. I think on the regulation side everything is clear. R&B, that's what I've been telling, that Shane Ellis, well, in the tweets from him I read, and even in the Shane Ellis paper, he basically writes that he works for UK government, and on the videos, on one of the comments or the questions on this YouTube video from Rob Art was actually coming from Fritz the Bear. And Fritz the Bear was kind of talking to Shane Ellis, and he wrote, I need to do some phone calls. And Shane Ellis basically replied, I hope those phone calls are not to track me down. But UK government wouldn't anyway like it somehow. So I'm having reason to believe he worked for UK government, but I think it's not really important after all. As long as people knowing that theory believe in that theory, and I totally do. I read again today the tweet from Mr. Fresh regarding this regulation stuff I was talking about before, that as long as a payment system kind of regulates itself through a governance body, the regulators kind of accept that. And Mr. Fresh wrote, since I think the word was adamantly or adamantly or something, like very strong defended this theory. And yes, I am. I mean, I read it, and the moment I read it, it was the same loose or light which struck me as when I read about XRP. I knew basically immediately that's it. Monty, well, I think if it's an asset or a crypto or whatever, I think even, I mean, Ripple itself declares it as digital asset. But when it comes to regulatory clarity, I don't know how they wanna declare it. I mean, usually, but that's just the way I see it. Usually an asset is kind of like quite stable. I mean, there might be tens or so of percentage gains or losses in the price throughout the day or so, plus or minus 10%, maybe a few times plus or minus 20. But what will happen with XRP, in my opinion, is not what the normal asset is showing in terms of gains. XRP Heart, an interesting question about the coin burning. Well, initially XRP was designed in a way, or basically that burn rate was part of the initial design decision in order to kind of prevent, I think it's called convolution, like flooding the system with transactions which eventually will fail. In internet jargon, this is called denial of service attack. That supposedly has happened to the SBI virtual currency platform, and the denial of service attack is basically you flood a system with too many requests, which basically crashes the system. And the system will not be able to recover on its own, and for a system like XRP, that'll be basically the kill switch. I mean, they need to make sure that each and every XRP transaction goes through. Otherwise, I mean, there is kind of zero tolerance on that. I mean, we're talking about millions of dollars being transacted per second. Heiko Everhards, I don't think... That's an interesting question. Heiko asks if banks are afraid that it's too decentralized. Let me answer that question in a slightly different way. And I hope it satisfies your question. When we are talking about high prices of XRP, many stupid people think it cannot be, because market cap would be greater than all the money there exists in the world, which is a stupid theory which I debunked recently with a video, and I hope everyone still having doubt about that understood it so far, that market cap cannot be applied to crypto. Which brings me back to the price of XRP. For a bank to send money to another bank via a bridge asset, it's basically unimportant if they pay $1 for 1,000 XRP or $1,000 for 1 XRP. The bank wants to transact $1,000. How that's achieved, they have, as long as it works, they're not interested in that. And the same thing has to be seen by this centralization question. I mean, you could also argue, why did they trust Swift? I mean, basically all the transactions went through Swift, or still do, the cross-border transactions. I mean, why do they... I don't know. I don't think that it's a question of decentralization or centralization. I mean, there will be always two groups, one which favor something more open and one which favors something more closed. One could argue that by going through to ILP and RippleNet, it'll be harder in the future to sanction countries. That may be, but in a global perspective, I really think all the important guys know that the future can only be a system like ILP and RippleNet proposes. Philip G, no, that's not quite true. For the price to rise, it's literally we need, like I said, 1% of Swift's volume would be already fine enough to go to $500. Okay, so we really do not need so much banks on RippleNet, on RippleNet. We even have a French follower, 3F. Bonjour, or bonne nuit, bonsoir. And actually, my wife usually also joins. She's totally behind me. She supports me in this YouTubing, in this XRP research and stuff. But I went a bit astray from this burn rate thing. Now I see it again. The burn rate was, I recap quickly, was invented to prevent congestion of the system. But eventually it's basically not important regarding XRP price, because the burn rate is so low, and it'll take, I think, 100 or so years to burn all XRP. So there is literally enough XRP available, even if they burn a little bit more. Crypto surfer, trust me, even JP Morgan knows what time it is. To me, this JPM coin is just some trying to confuse us. Manuel, I will read your question later on. It's a little bit long, or maybe if there isn't coming anything on more, I will dig into that. Otherwise, I will write you an email. Let me go through the other questions. Tom Akers, the XRP coin is, I mean, look at the media. We see all that, but on a global scale, XRP doesn't have. It's still seen as a banker's coin. I mean, it's really just us nerds being into XRP. I mean, that's the reason. Heiko Everhards, no, that's what I tried to explain before. Money you use to pay in a shop needs to be stable. You cannot buy milk one day for 10 XRP and the next day for 0.1 XRP. That's something which will confuse people totally. They need to be able to rely and to be able to compare. And that's why a currency used needs to be stable. There is literally no other options. That's the reason why XRP will never ever be a currency. There might be shops which may accept XRP, but that's now for the fun of it. I mean, as soon as we are having ILP infrastructure everywhere, it's basically not important anymore. Actually, Carl and Monty, good news and no price increase. Well, as many people believe, I think the price of XRP is artificially pressed down. And I may think it even works in the same way as I told that Moino has his theory about Shane Ellis' theory could happen the other way around with bots. If someone tells merci en français, de rien, 3F de rien. J'espère que mes vidéos en français sont pour entendre bien. No, not any news from SBI. Kevin Ramper said, for banks to be able to buy XRP, that'll require regulation, but that's a different regulation than what most people talk about XRP requiring regulation for banks using XRP, but holding. As soon as banks are allowed to hold cryptos, they will buy XRP, trust me on that, and that will shoot the price even higher. Dylan Smart, no, I haven't seen that prediction, I will check it later on, I opened the link. Karl Wagner, your price analysis kind of refers even though far away to market cap. Trust me, XRP, the price of a bridge asset is totally, well, not 100% not dependent on supply. It also depends on speed and velocity of using it in the system. But basically, if you had a coin with just one coin which can be transacted 10,000 times per second, that one coin would be already enough to cover a lot. Supply is not totally, but literally not so relevant for the price. Free F, merci beaucoup. Ashley Blackwell, to what are you referring to that Bearable guy was doing? Did I miss something? Ryan McBride, well, I just recently told someone that all depends on like Ryan is referring to the highest price of XRP. He still would get into XRP to make some profit. That really depends. I mean, a Ripple stock you buy, an Apple stock you buy at $200 and hope it goes to 220, maybe 250. And we in Switzerland, we have stocks where one of these things costs 10,000 Swiss francs. If you're hoping it'll rise 10%, I mean, you can still buy it at 10,000. That's not an absolute thing. That depends on how much profit you want to make. If you really want to get freaking rich, like millionaire, not requiring to work anymore, so basically you need like between $3 and $5 million or something, then I guess I'd stop investing into XRP at about $10. But if you're fine with 50,000 win, then you can invest up to, I don't know, $5,000. It's really... Ashley, you think Bearable Guy based his prediction on technical analysis? I'm pretty sure he didn't. Sorry if I'm laughing about that, but the 589, even though many think it was a clear price prediction, but I think that figure was selected or chosen pretty cleverly, and it has several meanings. One meaning of the 589 refers to the COMEX, I think it's called Silver COMEX rules, which controls high price changes in stocks, and that it won't apply to XRP. Another explanation could be that it refers to cobalt. I mean, that's really coincidence. I really don't think it has through the technical analysis. And by the way, Bearable Guy, I mean, he has in many areas he has proved to be right. The only thing so far he failed is that his timing was correct, but maybe even that thing he can, I mean, no one can control the timing. Basically, I was hoping and waiting for a price jump end of last year already, and it didn't happen. Okay, I'm not really an insider in the whole thing, but I guess you know what I want to say. And by the way, technical analysis is kind of useless in the crypto area anyway. Maybe in those ones where it's just about pure speculation, But as soon as we're talking utility, how the fuck can you, sorry about the wording, how can you analyze use case? You need to know freaking lot about all transactions going through the system. It's about, I think in 5 to 10 years time, no computer in the world will ever have so much information as to know about the real utility or utility coming along a system such complex. I really think it's impossible even in 5 to 10 years with the computers we have at that time. RMP, well, I think that guy who is working on Cobalt, Ethan McBorough, maybe. It's a guy from Ripple. He mentioned that in several tweets, and he basically declined any reference to Verbal Guy, and he said that he thinks it's just a cool element. So it literally no, but I mean it could be downplayed. I mean, what do we know? Günther Bloom, yes, exactly. I always laugh when a guy talks about technical analysis on XRP. It's pointless. Okay, now for the time being I've answered all questions. Let me scroll up a little bit to find the questions from Manuel. It was a bit longer. He wrote it in German. Let me try to explain. He's asking if it is in the sense of Ripple that the price will shoot only after SBI is going live. Because that after that decision also the big ones could buy, which Apple maybe doesn't want, because they want to sell XRP to the banks and exchange it. Is it in the spirit? Manuel, I remember what I told before regarding the price of XRP. A bank basically doesn't care if they pay $1 for 1,000 XRP or $1,000 for 1 XRP. They just want to get the transaction going through. That's what the bank cares about. And the same thing is basically, as long as the market is liquid, Ripple and also the banks do not care who holds the XRP now. Before, and there's my wife. Hello, Sonia. That's really nice how she supports me. Oi, meu amor. Did I answer your question, Manuel? No, I don't think it's literally unimportant whom holds XRP once the price shoots, or before or after. The only thing Ripple is concerned is that the liquidity can be guaranteed. That's really the only thing. Javier Pomar, well, watch my other videos. I really think it has to go very high, 4 digits, lower to medium 4 digits at least. No, Ada, can you send me maybe regarding this Al Gore stuff more information on Twitter or in a comment on the video after that? That would be really nice, Ada. I hope you heard me. Ashley, you don't get it. Even the customers don't care. If you want to send $1,000 to me and I receive 1,000 Swiss francs, do you care if that? Do you as end user care how the bank transacts that money to me? You just want to make sure that I'm receiving an appropriate amount of Swiss francs. How it's done, you fucking don't care. It's not important. Neither is the price of whatever medium is being used. Unless I get an appropriate amount of money in my bank account, it's not important. That's something many people don't understand, and usually it's the same people who don't understand the market cap theory, because it's not important. XRP hard, why backed is still basically not on. I don't know, I didn't follow that one too much. Sim, Chris, eu falo português, minha mulher é de Brasil. Jonathan Rain, you make me laugh. Nobody cares how the sausage is made. That's exactly it. I mean, if you're on Twitter, tweet it and write in an explanation. Banks won't care if XRP is 4 or 5 digits high or even below full, like it's now, below $1. They don't care. They don't, as long as there is enough liquidity, they literally don't care. I mean, there has been reasons why there have been exactly 100 billion XRP, and there has been reasons why there have been, or still are now, around, I don't know, 53 billion in escrow. It's really, trust me, they know what they're doing. They could have decided to create 100 quadrillion XRP and leave the price at $0.1, but they didn't. It's not important. Toby Yogi, the price needs to go. He's asking, when supply is not important, he doesn't understand why the price should go high, because we need liquidity, and liquidity depends on basically circulating or available supply. But total supply, as you know, we have like over 50% in escrow, and many people, they will not want to sell even at $50. They want to hold on to their XRP, and all that XRP goes off the table. And in a global payment system, it has to be made sure that each and every transaction succeeds. There cannot be one failure, okay? And in order to guarantee that, the liquidity has to be high enough, and thus the price has to be high. Toby Yogi, if you're on, if you're on Twitter, please DM me, send me a private message, and I will try to explain it to you a little bit more in detail. Ashley, your other comment, the government wants sheep, not millionaires. Even that's going towards conspiracy theory, which I'm totally not into. You may be right, I don't comment on that. You may be wrong, but after all, I think alone in US there is you can Google that, how many millionaires are created in US every year. And then you go to Ledger Exposed and do some stats, some analysis on those figures there, and you will see it'll be not too many people being millionaires all around the world. It'll be some, but it'll be not a big redistribution. After all, and I made that clear with the sock example in my I think it was it was another video. In my market cap debunk video recently, I mean, as soon as those millionaires are not dollar millionaires, those would be XRP millionaires. Jeff Bezos is not a dollar billionaire, he's a Amazon stock billionaire. If he's trying to sell all his stock, Amazon stock would fall towards zero and he would have maybe, I don't know, a few hundred millions, but definitely not a billion anymore. And the same thing would happen with XRP. I mean, if, like, don't understand me wrong, you will be able to sell your XRP at a high price, but not everyone at the same time. That just wouldn't work. But it will not happen, trust me. Ah, interesting, Chris. But I see you speak English as well. Javier Pomare, pretty soon. I'm expecting it to happen this year. Now I lost, where was I? Hold on. Tobi Yogi, liquidity bedeutet Liquidität. Tobi Yogi is asking about liquidity. Basically, when we're talking about XRP liquidity, that means that basically the same sentence I said before. RippleNet or XRP price needs to make sure that each and every transaction going through XRapid in the future will be able to be done. If that requires increasing price of XRP to $5,000, then be it. If it's possible at $1, then be it, but it's not. We know from David Schwartz only low value payments can go in high volume through the system right now, and still no one could answer what low value is. I heard a different meaning about that yesterday, where someone suggested that low value may be only up to $1,000, and my calculation is 10,000, which was a bit conservative, so maybe a high value, low value. Okay, let me slowly close the live stream. Let me go through the final question. All is ready. We need now. Trust me. Yes, Simonti. But I'm sure that the momentum is accelerating, as I demonstrated in also a recent video. We had one customer contract per week first half of 2018. Then second half, two contracts per week. Now we are on 3 contracts. Trust me, by the end of the year we're between 4 and 5 contracts per week from financial institutions which want to come to RippleNet. And someone, I think R&B, told me that Ripple has in the meantime over 500 employees already. Since End of 2017, that's like doubling. So Ripple employees doubled in about 1.5 years. Imagine that. And they stated publicly all the time that their income to pay salaries and stuff is the selling the licenses for their software, and it's not XRP. So they must be doing well when they can double their employees. That means that they're doubling their contracts as well. Okay? So you can be sure, I'm pretty sure we're way over 300 from Ripple alone, not talking about the ones from Domino, CGI, Tasrobe, etc. Yes, I have seen the presentation from the Swiss National Bank, Slim Shady. Was interesting. I was actually watching almost the whole 2.5 hours. I learned a lot about monetary policies, requirements, also regarding central bank digital currencies. I don't understand why everyone is hyping central banks digital currencies. It'll not be available on exchanges, it'll not be tradable because it needs to be stable. It's really just a replacement for fiat, but it'll have the same properties as when you're using your card to pay in a store. And Brad himself, I think he had made better presentations, but maybe not in front of such an audience. That's your belief, Ashley. You're a Galgatron believer. I'm not. If Galgatron were correct, we would be at $3 or $5 already. I mean, we're now basically almost 9 months already, 8 or 9 months live with XRP, and that was Galgatron's theory, that price with XRP would rise constantly, and we have drops all the time. So his theory must be wrong. Okay, and with that I basically leave you guys alone. I hope that next week I have again on Tuesday and Thursday English live streams, as today was interesting. Hopefully we will know more a little bit about some topics being discussed today. I will dig a little bit more deeper into this regulation stuff. Check out my tweet today regarding regulation and this video from Patrick Griffin, I think was his name. And I'm hoping that I will see quite some followers on the German live stream next Wednesday together with R&B. He knows quite a lot, and I really hope it'll work with the sound and everything. Thanks everyone.